I was asking Mr. Adam Robin, are you there?
Okay, got it. No, actually, the second speaker covered kind of one of the areas I was going to touch on, and that is really sovereignty and governance. And one of the biggest challenges I think right now in Africa is data having to move outside across borders and then back inside the country, especially as it pertains to healthcare information, especially things such as speech to text even. So if a patient or a doctor is trying to input data, it becomes an issue because it's so difficult, as you noted from the speakers, in terms of building data centers, in terms of processing data. A lot of that data has to cross borders, and so I think governance is a huge issue that has to be discussed as well.
No, thanks for that point. That point is well noted. But related to that, I have a question for you as part
Yeah.
of this panel. So, given what we have heard today about the resources and infrastructure associated with establishing data centers, where
Yeah.
does specifically Ethiopia stand today in terms of AI readiness, and how does it compare with other developing countries? If you have any insight on that, if not specifically on Ethiopia, you can tell us about other developing countries.
Sure. I mean, it's interesting. I actually was just in Ethiopia. I'm actually currently in Namibia right now, of all places. That's why it's been a bit of a challenge. And also South Africa. Each of them is in a different phase of advancement. You have different players that are coming into the system. Ethiopia, for those of you who haven't recently been, especially in Addis, is basically a giant construction site, and there is a huge push to not only reconstruct the city and the infrastructure, but there's also a push on the digital front. I think, and I actually met with the head of digital for the Ministry of Health, and the attitude, I think, is such that they are willing to spend. They are looking to advance their system as quickly as possible. That is the appetite and the feeling I get in Ethiopia. I think even more so than other countries. South Africa is more advanced, I would say, at this point in terms of its infrastructure. The other big thing that's now shifting and evolving is that Starlink is still not in Ethiopia. South Africa has its issues with Starlink, has created a relationship with Amazon. I'm sure the AWS people will know this. Amazon now has its own sort of version of Starlink, but there's this combination of the bandwidth infrastructure combined with actual internal spending on data processing and building data centers that needs to be looked at. But I don't think we can say necessarily one country is sort of dominating in different arenas. I think things are evolving. It's very fluid, but there's definitely a desire to bring AI into the forefront. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Thank you
That's
for
helpful.
that. Yes, I appreciate that. So, just a reminder for the panelists, please limit your response to 2 to 3 minutes at most, okay? Because we have quite a few questions. Okay. Now, the next question is to Dr. Getao Baye. Dr. Getao, are you there? Dr. Getao?
I think Dr. Getao hasn't joined us yet. He couldn't join us due to some personal issues. So it is better to proceed with other panelists.
Okay. How about Dr. Theodros? Dr. Theodros?
He's here, yeah. He's in.
Okay, Dr. Theodros. So let me ask just these questions to you around the 6 pillars infrastructure that the two presenters gave us. So of these 6 pillars, which is hardware, software, connectivity, data centers, power, and big data, which is Ethiopia's greatest constraint and greatest strengths, and why? Dr. Theodros.
Okay. Yeah. All 6 pillars are difficult for Ethiopia for now, I think. But some of the pillars are more difficult to attain than the others. For example, I think we have a lot of power, which is excess than the requirement for the country. I think we are a center for power, power of Africa, so power will not be a problem in our country. But when it comes to the connectivity and the data, I think it is our most limitation. For connectivity, we have no data centers. We have poor internet connectivity all over the country except the big cities, and we are unable to have much connectivity in the rural areas where most of our health systems are in the country. So is a major problem for us. And also the big data, I
Are you
think
open?
we have a big data in the country, but my worry is the data may not reflect our true reality. Most of our data are not organized. They are not. Most of the reports are falsified and just created. They are not the reality. For example, the most of our health system data reports are unrealistic. For example, a report from our health centers may not reflect the true burden of our disease, a true service delivery. They are destined for a report. We may not be able to generate AI from that data. We have big data, but my worry is it may not reflect the reality. And we have, I think we have data centers in the universities because, yeah, in big universities we have adequate data centers. So my opinion is that the data and connectivity may be difficult for us.
Yes, thank you. So connectivity and data, what advantages power grid? That's what you said. So let me follow up on that. Then what infrastructure investments should Ethiopia prioritize to create an AI-ready environment? Just again, Dr. Theodros, on that topic.
So we have to prioritize to have reliable data. We have to have, first of all, a reliable data. So we have to invest on that. And also to have reliable connectivity, we have to extend our data centers and broadband access to major institutions and health facilities.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, that's great. Now let's move on. The next question is to Professor Chike. Professor Chike, so this is on data and AI. What challenges and opportunities does Ethiopia or any developing country face regarding data, particularly data that involving diverse languages, cultures, and from that local context? Dr. Chike Nzuru. Dr.
Can you hear
Chike?
me?
Now I can hear you. Yes.
Yes. There's several data challenges. From what Professor Theodore said, one of the biggest ones is data veracity. The veracity of the data, um, in general, this tends to improve over time as you increase the data sources and increase the refinement of data, you tend to get better data. So there is a big issue with data veracity. The second major challenge is data governance in terms of when you have data in a situation like Ethiopia or many African countries where you have several languages and then cultural issues, trying to make sure that the data cuts across in free of bias, because sometimes you can have bias introduced into the data, sometimes unwittingly. I give you a big example. One of the biggest challenges when big data came out, everyone was so excited because big data surprised everyone that when you had the bad flu, the swine flu, people were able to track how people were getting colds just by searches in Google. And everybody thought this was great. But as big data evolved, we found out in terms of healthcare that actually big data was worsening the disparities of health, at least in the United States, between the poor, the underinsured, Latino, Black patients. So they believe in the supremacy of big data in terms of its ability to be transparent and be free of bias was kind of like the emperor without clothes. So in Ethiopia, where you have several ethnic groups, or in Nigeria or Congo, most of these countries, you have so many groups, you want to make sure that the issue of this data bias is tackled. Trying to limit myself to the 3 minutes, the final aspect of data that I think has to be addressed is the data governance, making sure that especially with data that has to do with healthcare, that we talk about the ethics of the data, who controls access to the data, how are patients' rights and confidentiality protected. So those are the big challenges that I see, but they are not insurmountable. And if we follow one of the speakers talked about making sure that we co-create in the AI space, Africa, along with the big players, instead of trying to lay back and just be consumers. If we don't play a role in the active process and co-create, then we'll have some of these other challenges unaddressed. Thank you.
Thanks for that response. Appreciate that. Now, the next question is again, back to Mr. Adam on human capital and education. Just Adam, from your traveling throughout Africa, what skills will Africa and specifically Ethiopia need, and what should universities do differently to prepare students for the AI economy? Adam.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think there are a number of challenges that are going to have to be met. I think clearly it's going to be not only the ability to generate self-sustaining systems within Africa so that one is not forever dependent on these big AI companies. And so it's understanding the language of AI, I feel like, but also, and that's more of a long-term project. In the short term, I think it's really being able to implement some of the most basic sort of capabilities to be able to develop and create one's own data centers. Obviously, that is something that has to happen quickly, or countries are going to be left behind. And so the question becomes: are countries going to implement their own systems, or are they going to be dependent on outside systems? And I'm not sure at this point.
So in terms of training needs, what's your advice? What kind of training how can universities prepare students for this challenge?
I think, to be honest, it's a question that all universities are asking. I don't think it's simply African universities. I mean, AI is evolving so quickly that curriculums are shifting dramatically. I think it's actually quite a big question that I'm not sure we can fully answer right now. Sorry, I wish I had a better answer for that.
Agreed, 100%. Being in academia, that's the challenge that every academician is struggling with. So, yep. Thanks for that. Okay, so yeah. Anybody? Okay. Okay, so let's continue. The next question is on some opportunities and practical applications. I pose this one to Dr. Getao. Bahir. Dr. Getao is not there, right?
Yeah,
Right,
he's
again?
not here.
He's not. Okay,
Yeah.
let me pose this then to Dr. Theodoros. I think this question is related to Ethiopia. So, which sectors could benefit most from AI in Ethiopia, and can you give us some practical example that you know of, Dr. Theodoros? From the Ethiopian perspective, which sector could benefit most from AI in Ethiopia? Currently, I'm sure in the future, almost every sector, but right now, do you know of any example that you can share that is utilizing AI?
Every sector will benefit from using AI. But in Ethiopia currently, the health system is using AI. I think, for example, the Bahir University is implementing a pilot study in using focus point of care ultrasound, which is AI supported, and we train the end users for 3 hours. The training is given online, and they can use the ultrasound, which is connected to their tablets with AI application, and their role is just to put it in the abdomen. We are starting to use it in the OPS for now, obstetric care, and we are getting really amazing data, and we are currently analyzing it, and currently we know that it increases the care in remote areas. So health system will be benefited more, and I think education is also will benefit more if we are implementing that. As you know, we are in shortage of teachers, especially in rural areas, and there are many schools who have no teachers which are adequately trained. So we may use AI to advance the delivery of our education, and especially in remote areas. And also we are using AI at university level in agriculture, especially in breeding and in I think in pottery. So we are starting it, but education and health may benefit more from using AI in the current setup of our country.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's a very good example. Now, let me, since Dr. Geta is not there, I don't want to put you on the spot. Dr. Jerusalem, I know I have you here as one of the panelists, but, you know, if you can add some on what Dr. Theodorus had said, you know, some practical example that you can share with us that AI is being in use. Dr. Jerusalem, if you are there, can you chime in?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Professor Brano, for inviting me on this. So I strongly agree with the points that Dr. Theodorus has already raised. So AI can be applicable in every sector. Basically, every sector could benefit from application of AI. And majorly, I see the use of AI would be more beneficial in the health sector and also education, agriculture, and also the climate environment. So looking at the country's developmental priorities as well. So AI could help much on this. And the practical examples, so the examples that Dr. Theodorus has raised is already there, especially on the health sector. So we are using nowadays AI for different modalities, for the medical education, also for for the medical education, and also for imaging services. So nowadays we are having AI, which are AI models, which are much helpful in interpreting images, and also being applicable on the radiological aspect. And coming to the environmental, and also the other benefit on the health sector could be like disease prediction, like prediction of epidemics and so on, could be one benefit on the health sector. Coming to the climate and agriculture, again, we can have a better estimates of what's coming in the future using AI, and these are some of the practical things that we can apply AI. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So we have not formally introduced you. If you don't mind, can you briefly introduce yourself? I really
Sure.
appreciate that. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
So this is Dr. Jerusalem from Arnhem University. I'm the school dean at Arnhem University, and I'm an internist by profession. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I'm going to stay again with Dr. Jerusalem and Dr. Todros, this on the challenges, ethics, and responsible AI use. The first question is, how can Ethiopia encourage AI innovation while addressing concerns around privacy, employment bias, misinformation, and cybersecurity? So maybe, Dr. Jerusalem, let me give you a chance for if you can chime in on that.
Okay, thank you. While addressing for the risks, we can encourage on AI development, because when the concept of AI comes into the picture, we had a lot of misinformations, and there are lots of misconceptions on the employment status, and also with the application as well. So what we can do is, we don't have to discourage, because the future, the world is moving towards AI, so we can't discourage AI. But what we can do is, we can so when we bring it to the education, for example, we can teach our students how they can use AI responsibly, so the country can develop a good governance framework on this. So we don't have to discourage the use, but still we have to focus, and we have to have a governance framework on how to use and when to use, and also when could it be a legal issue while using the AI. This is one thing that we can add. The other one, yeah, we need to have a strong. So there are some movements on this. Actually, I think Ethiopia has developed some AI. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think I'm audible. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So yeah, we are having AI policy, the national policy. So that's one thing moving forward. So we can strengthen this, so developing to minimize the risks. The national movement should move to the legal framework, the cybersecurity issues, and this, the privacy issues again should be emphasized more. Doing this, we can, I think, responsibly and better, we can have a better use of AI. Thank you.
Thanks. Dr. Theodoros, anything to add here?
I think it is all said, but I think the most important thing is to have a government policy on how to use AI and uh, how to use the data with respecting to data privacy and data policy. So the other thing is train the user how to use the data or use AI responsibly with academic integrity.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. So I have a couple of more questions left. I think we should still right on time. So I'm going to ask Professor Chike, I think you have touched on this one. What are some of the environmental and energetic considerations associated with doing this kind of work, specifically in developing countries with a special focus on Ethiopia? And how might any potential harm be mitigated? Professor Chike, can you chime in on that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So the environmental concerns would have to be, one of the major ones is the huge energy investment in data centers. Even though Ethiopia's power situation is very good compared to many African countries, a situation where a large piece of the power goes to data centers would also be a challenge, because it would then deprive other sectors of the economy, such as agriculture and the commercial systems that also need a lot of power. So the power equation and how the power is shared between data centers, which are very voracious in terms of the power consumption, to make sure that the other sectors of a highly Ethiopia, the economy is growing at a high rate. The rate of growth has been between 6 and 8% in the past few years, which is exciting, and that would create jobs that would increase the GDP. The question is, when you subsume a large section of that power into the data centers, which is what you need to make the AI dream to be a reality, there is that question of who gets much of the power and how we power the data centers without, crippling the other sectors of the Ethiopian economy. But again, Ethiopia is in a very privileged position because it has a lot more power, and then the projects with the Nile and all of that would only make the power situation better with time. So there is that environmental. But then when you come into a society, again, Ethiopia is a microcosm of many African countries where you have several ethnic groups, land rights. These data centers consume a lot of land, and then managing that land right issue without triggering conflict is also another concern that has to be addressed. Some places, blockchain technology may come into use to help, with land rights, but whenever you have different groups and you have structures that have to use such massive land infrastructure, land can be a contentious thing, among many African nations. So the question is trying to make sure that you get the land and the space for the data centers without triggering or worsening any type of group conflict. So those are the major challenges in terms of the environmental impact. And then if you use that large piece of land for data centers, which you have to, what are the models for compensation? If you look at what's going on in the United States, the compensations are quite generous. How do we make sure that when it gets to Africa, people wouldn't try to use eminent domain and say, oh, this is for the benefit of all of Ethiopia, you shouldn't get paid? That would trigger conflict once again. So those are some of the environmental challenges that I see. And the land, so much land being used for data centers means land that's unavailable for agriculture, for example. And how do you manage that? So those are the major challenges that I see from the environmental standpoint.
Yeah, thanks. I think those are pertinent points. I appreciate that. Now, the final question again, I'm going to pose it to Professor Chike and Mr. Adam. So here, this is the question. If you had the opportunity to advise governments like the Ethiopian government or universities or the private sector today, what are the three most important things they should do over the next few years, like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, to ensure that they are prepared to benefit from AI? So let me start with Mr. Adam, and I'll go to Professor Chike. And if we have time, I'll give a chance to Dr. Theodoros, and then we'll continue with that. So, Mr. Adam. Adam, are you there? No? Okay, while we wait for Mr. Adam, Professor Chike, can you start on this one?
Okay, the three things I would recommend would be: number one, engage. This is no time to stand by the sidelines. Try to co-create and have your own data included in the models, because again, these models are very good, but their veracity depends on what is fed into them. We want to make sure that the universities play active role and generate their own data, which is fed into the models. If your models are not there, then the data, the veracity of the AI for your use would be limited. Second, co-create. Again, train your faculty, train people who would co-create, and then collaborate. Just because these things they require massive investment in resources and infrastructure. In every university, you have competing demands, but that's not an excuse. You can collaborate, and the collaboration would also limit how much resources you have to put up yourself. So engage, co-create, collaborate. Don't sit by the sidelines. Generate your own data and make sure that, again, you don't become reduced to consumers, which is what Africa has missed out on the three previous revolutions of mankind. AI should not be included in those lists of where Africa is excluded and reduced to consumption. The same thing we see in agriculture. You have coffee from Ethiopia, Congo, Rwanda. We don't make the money from coffee. The coffee is sent out. People in Seattle are making the money from coffee grown in Ethiopia. We don't want that to happen in AI. So we want to jump in early at this early phase. Those would be my three recommendations.
Thank you for that. Mr. Adam, Robin, are you there? Mr. Adam? Okay, maybe not. I think for the sake of time, I will stop it here. And again, as we come to the end of today's webinar, I'd like to highlight, one key message from today's discussion. That is, AI is far more than a software. So behind every AI system is an ecosystem of hardware, software, connectivity, data centers, electricity, and high-quality data. These components work together to make modern AI possible. Today's discussion has also reminded us that implementing AI at scale requires more than technology. it requires infrastructure, investment, skilled people, data, and thoughtful planning. So for students and future professionals, understanding these fundamentals is very important, not only to become effective users of AI, but also to become contributors to its future development. I would like to sincerely thank our presenters, Ms. Lydia Alam and Ms. Rachel Dungan, our distinguished panelists, Professor Chike, Mr. Adam, and then Dr. Theodros and Dr. Jerusalem, as well as our organizers and everyone who joined us today. Thank you for your participation and engagement. Let us continue to learn, innovate and work together toward this future where AI is developed and used responsibly and inclusively for the benefit of society. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. With that, we close the panel, and I'll pass it to Dr. Naugao for the closing remark. Dr. Naugao, if you are there. Dr. Naugao there? Okay.
Professor, I think Dr. Bakalu is here. He's assigned for the closing remarks.
Okay. Yes. Sorry. Can you introduce Dr. Bakalu? I think, yeah, Dr. Naugao has introduced Dr. Bakalu. So, Dr. Bakalu, if you are there, can you take over it and do the closing remark? And then with that, I think we will finish today's webinar.
Okay. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Professor Brown. Thank you all, and the moderators, those who prepared this webinar. And I think representing also Bahir University, I'm very much thankful for people to people and Anadach for having this continuous webinar on AI in higher education and in health system. Having said that, I think the discussion point were really igniting, and especially the 6 pillars. It's very important for universities and hospitals, and for low income countries government to think systematically. Basically, I found it interesting because somehow it aligns with 6 building blocks of WHO. And I think it's so much informative from the Ethiopian government point and the Ethiopian higher educations and the universities. I think there are very good initiatives generally from Ethiopian point. There is this, I think, 2013 Digital Ethiopia agenda, the AI Institute, the AI University. I was looking into that in the chat. And the government national policies currently being adopted at a university level AI policies, including in Bahir Dar University. So all these things looks, I think, a very good initiative to catch up and not to miss this technology, the effect of this technology in health, in education, in agriculture, and everything. Not only being able to use the AI applications and the likes, but also to co-create and influence this area in Ethiopia and in Africa at large. In my university, and specifically in our medical school, we have AI in medical education and healthcare initiative. We established it as a unit. We collaborated with people to people. We had recent MOU signature to advance on that. And we will start from actually digital literacy and AI literacy. Actually, there is a gap also in basic knowledge and how to use responsibly, ethically, and the like, especially in healthcare and medical education and higher education. The ethical and relevant use of AI is very important. The decision-making process in patient care and healthcare is very much significant. One of the opportunity we have in this regard is in the Ethiopian New Year, after 1 month, we will inaugurate and graduate a data center in Bahir Dar, which is actually a tier 3 data center. And in the Ethiopian context, we don't have a tier 4 data center. We only have tier 3 data centers. Mainly those data centers are in use for Ethio Telecom and bank sectors and the likes. But we do have a very good opportunity, especially in Addis, in the ICT park. There are commercialized tier 3 data centers. So every university, every facility, or every region is not supposed to, build and invest on data center establishment. Once we have tier 3, or Commercial Bank of Ethiopia is looking for a tier 4 data center establishment very shortly. So these data centers can really, significantly support the AI infrastructure, especially from hardware, the power, and the data storage, the memory point of view. So our university data center is going to be, very much in use for the Northwest and the Amhara region digital initiative and digital agenda. It's one of a kind in Amhara region, actually, in North and Northwest Ethiopia. So it is because of that we are embarking on electronic medical record, AI initiatives, AI units, and AI collaborations for use of the applications, co-creation, and collaboration with our regional and international collaborators in this regard. So I will position Ethiopia. As I've heard that South Africa and maybe Kenya, there are a few African countries, including Morocco, few African countries doing well in this regard. But I will position Ethiopia and the universities in Ethiopia, specifically Bahir University, to really catch up this technology and to use it in education and health system, specifically from universities' mission point of view. So maybe my last message will be, it is artificial. We have to underline that, but it is intelligent. So especially the data bias and the less representation of data of the Ethiopian and African context, and somehow also the Asian context, should be well regarded, and we have to think systematically and critically this less representation and already existing inequality in the digital representation of the global data. So it needs really a cautious, application and usage, and we have to really catch up a big data representation in the world, because there is a doubt and a question: is it going to really, increase the existing inequality and disparity in technology use and digital transformation in this world? The appearance and the fast transformation of AI, is it going to decrease or increase the existing inequality and disparity in this regard? I wish, and we have to perform to decrease the existing inequality in this regard. But if we keep quiet and if we are not moving strategically, it may significantly increase the existing disparity, and the African and the Asian population may lag behind in this transformational and digital world. So I encourage universities, scholars, leaders, policymakers to really narrow this gap and move forward, and not to be a lagger or lagging behind in this transformative world. So I again thank you, people to people, Anadach, and all the panelists, participants, virtual participants across the world for this igniting session this time round. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Bakalu. Appreciate that. I think Dr. Naugao is not here, so
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry.
No. Finish it. I'm just
No. Okay, I'll just say one point and I'll give it back to you. So there are quite a few questions and suggestions in the chat. I don't think we had time to go through over that. So what I suggested that the organizers of this conference, if they can transcribe all this, I think there are some important points and important questions. This could be addressed during our next session. And also, I think it will give us some ideas going forward. So with that, I'm done. So Dr. Naugao, it's yours.
Thank you, everybody. I think the lessons that we learned today, the panelists, professors that indicated it's time to be in front of the curve when it comes AI. So like as Africans, we need to wake up for a long time, and always we used to be behind the curve. So this is a unique opportunity for everybody, because if we are not part of this AI movement, then Africa would be a loser. I think I would like to thank the volunteers, everybody, and particularly thank you, Dr. Gabriel, and Gera, and everybody, and the Bahir team who made this possible. And thank you also the panelists out of your hectic schedule, particularly on Saturday, to spend so much time. And please note, this workshop is not, webinar is not just one day. We actually, and this was our second webinar, and we tend to host it every 2 months. With that, I wish you a very relaxing weekend, and stay tuned, and thank you again. Thank you, our distinguished moderator. Good job, everybody, and see you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you.